Welcome, everybody. My name is Steve Winward, and this is our third event in the Federal Business Applications webinar series. And today is going to be all around customer experience. So we're super excited to be able to share this with you all today. Before we get started, we did want to share our digital code of conduct. There's a lot of text here, but effectively what this says is that if you are not being respectful of other people, if they're posting chats or questions, we do have the right to drop you out of this event. Here's a quick look at what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to get into customer experience, and that's going to be the bulk of our session. But before we do that, we did want to get into a little bit of updates around our government community cloud. And so that's what we're going to share with you first. The other thing that we wanted to mention is that what we're using here is a Teams webinar meeting event. And there's a couple of different ways that you can interact with us. One is you can just put a chat in the chat, and we do have people on our team that are moderating the chat that can respond, or they may then bring that over to us so that they can ask questions. The other thing that you could do is if you feel comfortable, this is recorded, but if you feel comfortable, you could virtually raise your hand. We can then allow you to take yourself off of mute. You can unmute yourself and then ask a question. And then lastly, what we're going to be doing is once we're all done, so we'll do this intro, we'll do the customer experience section, and then we're going to take a break. We'll stop recording. And at that point, we'll have a little bit of an open Q&A forum. So if you feel more comfortable asking questions then, that's a good time to wait to be able to ask questions at the end. So my name is Steve Winward. I am a technical director at Microsoft Federal, and I am aligned to our business applications portfolio. And with me today is Aaron Mosley, who is with Avtex, and he's their federal director. And he's going to be talking all around customer experience and what they have been doing in this space. Now, one of the updates we wanted to make is that we've been doing a lot of work to put more solutions out in the open in terms of demos, proof of concepts, white papers, all around the US government sovereign clouds for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. And we're continuing to make that better. The other thing that we've been doing for this webinar specifically is we have a landing page for that on that GitHub repository. So you can go back and watch these sessions on demand at a later date. And what's really neat about that is if you click onto the links of the previous recordings, you can then go to the video on YouTube, and we have chapters bookmarked for different topics that were covered in each of these sessions. So even this one here that you're watching right now, you can go back once we post this probably in a few days, and then you can watch this on demand as well. The other thing that we wanted to highlight really quickly is just what are the different products of Microsoft and what are we specifically focused on here today? So on the left, you can think of these are our Office 365 applications that we all use today for email, for SharePoint, for collaboration. All of those products are very little configuration. They just kind of work out of the box. But on the other extreme, we have Azure. And that's really for our developer audience, right? Where you can build world-class services on top of these like Lego brick services that we offer inside of Azure. But in the middle there is our low-code business applications portfolio. The first of which being Power Platform. So from a visualization perspective, we have Power BI, Power Automate for workflow automation, Power Apps for low-code apps that work on both web and mobile, as well as Power Virtual Agents or modern chatbots. We also have Dynamics 365 applications, and you can think of these as just already built solutions on top of the Power Platform. Some examples of that are customer service. And that's a modern contact center. So for any federal agency that's dealing with taking calls and taking cases from US citizens, that's an amazing application that you can take advantage of that just works out of the box. And when we talk about this community and this webinar event, everything in that red box are the products that we're going to be focusing on. And then also just be aware that when we talk about US sovereign clouds, there's a couple of different flavors of that. There's GCC, GCC High, and DoD. They meet varying different federal accreditations, but as a company, we've made an incredible amount of investments into these US government sovereign clouds. And now what I wanted to get into were just some of the product updates that happened over the last month that we're excited to be able to share with you today. The first one being is RPA. So in the last webinar session, we mentioned that Power Automate Desktop, the client, was now available for government users with the Windows 10 use rights. And if you're not aware of what that means, it means that you can now download Power Automate Desktop if you're a GCC, GCC High, or DoD user at no cost, and you can get started with RPA today. And we've had a number of customers across these clouds test and verify this since it's been released. And we're happy to say that it's now working. So this is a great way to get started and get your feet wet with RPA. The other announcement that we're really excited about is Power Virtual Agents. So that is our modern chatbot experience. When you think about interacting with something like a commercial flight or a commercial plane and you want to make changes, oftentimes you can do that through a bot, and you can have artificial intelligence intelligently responding to those things. Power Virtual Agents is our low-code solution to be able to enable that for your customers, or in this case, for US citizens. And now there are just a couple of caveats with this. It's now live in GCC and GCC High, which is fantastic. There's a couple of small caveats, and we just want to be totally transparent about what those are. We also have a great workaround for this. So one of the big limitations today in GCC and GCC High are around analytics with PVA, but we have a great workaround, and somebody on my team, Brad Law, did a great show of this 2 sessions ago of how you can do this with Power BI. The other one that we wanted to mention is this concept that you can combine Power Platform with a CI/CD DevOps pipeline. If you're not familiar with Power Platform or what that is, we have an awesome application lifecycle management tooling built into Power Platform where you can very easily take, if you have a low-code solution, move that into different environments from test to dev to prod. You can kind of do that very easily. And if you want to kick it up to the next level, and you're working with a team of developers that have source control, you can now use the Power Apps command line tool to automatically take a solution out of the Power Platform, put that into source code, or do the reverse, take it from source code, package it, push it out into production. You can very easily kind of control that and automate that. Now, from a Microsoft perspective, we would love you to be using GitHub or Azure DevOps, but know that this experience could work with any of your CI/CD pipelines for source code. And then this slide here, it may not look like a lot, but for anybody that's kind of in the dev arena that does CI/CD, you'll probably get pretty excited by this. This is showing the Pack CLI tool in action against a GCC High environment for real. And so you can see there's the Dash Cloud US Gov switch there. So that's going against GCC High. The next thing it's going to do is actually list what are the different solutions available in Power Platform for this environment that I signed in with. And there you go. You can see some of the different solutions that were in this environment that I signed in with. And so once again, we're excited because now this is in GCC and GCC High and coming to DoD users in about a month. So in the March timeframe, DoD users should be able to do this as well. The other feature that just landed, this was something that's in preview and commercial today, but is also in preview in GCC and GCC High today as well. From a connector perspective of Power Platform, you've got a number of different governance and security options. This gives you even finer grained control than you had before. Effectively, what this lets you do is you can now say at the tenant level, I only want certain tenants to have access to my Power Platform environment. Or I only want to reach out to a select few tenants and then be able to get data back. And you have total control over this. So you can disable outbound communication, or you can disable inbound communication, or you could do both. So you have total flexibility over this. And this is a great new security feature that you have available to you from a governance perspective that's in preview for GCC and GCC High today. The other feature that we wanted to share with you is something we've put this on our federal business applications GitHub repository, and we have documentation around this. This is showing a Power Platform GCC environment connecting to Azure Synapse. And the nice thing here is that what you can do is you can have low-code applications creating data, automatically replicating that data into Azure. And the big benefit here is that when you combine that with Azure, you can take advantage of our world-class AI and ML services and combine that with the rest of your data estate for your organization. So that first clip there was showing you how to set that up, and it's pretty straightforward. You just do a couple of different configurations. You choose the tables that you want to sync, and you're good to go. This next clip here is what it's going to show you is now I'm in a model-driven app, and I'm going to submit a leave request here. In this case, it's Bobby. Bobby Chang is going to be submitting his leave request. And we're going to do this, once again, this is in low code, right? So we're going to fill this out, we're going to save it. And once this saves, we're going to switch over into Azure Synapse Studio, and we'll see the data in real time replicate over into Azure. So we just saved that record. So there's a new record in Dataverse. And now that we're looking into Synapse Studio, you can see that those are all the properties that were in that low-code model-driven app. But what's neat now is that you can do a SQL-style query against that data. And once we run this, we should now see that Bobby Chang vacation record that was just submitted. And there you go, it's at the bottom there. So in real time, you can get data into Azure really easily, but combine that with other things, maybe leverage some of the AI or ML services that we have in Azure as well. The other update that we wanted to mention is in the last session, we did mention that there was going to be specific for GCC and DoD users, a new way to get third-party connectors into your environment. And so at a high level, what that means is that tenant admins can decide to enable third-party connectors. They can also then decide which third-party connectors they want to enable. Now, in last month's event, we did say that would be at the end of January. There was a slight delay in this, and we just want to be open with you all. The product group is working incredibly hard to resolve this, and hopefully by the end of this month, we will have that. And then in the next session, what we'll do is we'll actually show you how this works in action. And then just from how do connectors land across our different clouds, the baseline, the goal is going to be GCC. So when new connectors come into the Power Platform for the government clouds, they're going to get into GCC first, and then they'll go into GCC High and DoD. And once that feature that's enabling third-party connectors in GCC High and DoD are landed, which is probably the end of this month, you'll then have the ability to do that for those of you that are in GCC High and DoD. And then we also have a link here. So for any connectors that are not in Government Cloud yet, here's a public link that you can go to make that request. This goes automatically to our product group, and that's how they prioritize which connectors they work on for future releases. We also have, this is linked on our GitHub repo as well, and there's a link to get to this file directly. This is a public table that we publish once a month by the product group, and this will show you GCC, GCC High, and DoD environments, and which features across Dynamics and Power Platform are available. And if they aren't available, sometimes what we'll do is we'll put timelines, and so you can see roadmaps. And once a month, this will be updated. So this is a great thing to go back to if you have questions around which features or functionality may be in one of these government clouds. You can go here and check that out now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to transition over to the customer experience executive order. And so in the middle of December, there was the customer experience EO that was signed by the Biden administration. And what we wanted to talk to you all about today was how you could use Microsoft's business applications portfolio to meet the needs of the executive order and to streamline customer experience for US citizens. And before I pass it over to Aaron, the one thing I wanted to call out, we're in GCC, in our Gov Clouds today, there's 3 products that we think that you can leverage really a lot for the customer experience executive order. First one being Dynamics 365 Customer Voice. You can think of this as really a way to get feedback or surveys on any kind of interaction that a US citizen has with a federal agency. And what's neat about this is you can send them an email to follow up and they can fill that out. Or if you're doing something like a Power Virtual Agent chatbot, which is a modern chatbot experience, after they're done with that session, you can immediately follow up with a survey inside of that bot. So once again, just another way to get feedback. And then you can do analysis and you could do analytics on that feedback to say, not only how long is it taking to resolve a case maybe, but what's the quality of the experience like from the US citizen? And then the last thing that we wanted to mention was Dynamics 365 Customer Service. And back in our December webinar event, we had a great deep dive by Brad Law, who went over customer service and omnichannel as well. But we really believe that this is another product that when you're dealing with cases and managing the load of different requests coming in from US citizens, that customer service is a great product for that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pivot over to Avtex. They're going to be covering the customer experience. And so, Aaron, we'd love for you to take it away here.
Great. Steve, thank you so much for having me on the webinar today. I think it's a really great topic area that we've honed in on today because customer experience is what Avtex has been dedicated to since the beginning of our existence. And so in my session today, what I'd love to do is talk a little bit about Avtex and our approach to customer experience challenges, as well as show a real life live production solution that we have built for HHS's Asper barter group. So I'm assuming everyone can see the screen here. I will take.
Yes, Aaron, we can see it.
Excellent. So, as we really start to look at customer experience challenges, these are the types of things that our clients come to us to help them solve. As more and more organizations across industries are realizing that the way that they're going to continue to excel is by building differentiated, high-value experiences, they really start to think, are my people, are my processes, is the technology that I have really geared towards creating exceptional customer experiences? And people have high expectations today. They're encountering incredible experiences with organizations like Amazon and Netflix, and they're expecting frictionless experiences. They're expecting things to be personalized and very intentionally driven towards them. So, how do you get there? And coming to an organization like Avtex, where this is all we do is customer experience, orchestration, strategy, and design, we can absolutely help out with that. So kind of bringing this into the federal context and kind of highlighting some of the things that are top of mind for leaders across the federal space. Steve mentioned the executive order. It's aligned with the president's management agenda and performance.gov. And if you are familiar with any of this, you know that there's lots and lots of documentation, lots of data that is gathered, the high impact service providers and all of the data that they are on the hook for. But as I think about this and as Avtex thinks about this, we really like this section of the OMB circular that talks about what are the customer experience drivers. These are the things that we think everyone should kind of have in their minds when you are thinking about how should your agency or organization really hone in on customer experience and make sure that you're really focusing in on it. Service quality, process, people, right? Are the services efficient? Are they easy to use? Is there transparency? And can the employees and the citizens who are engaging with whatever product or service or process, can they access it easily and consistently? There's a couple quotes here that Steve and I liked from the executive order that kind of really highlight, what the challenges are. And we're going to talk about some of these things as we go along. But as you can see, and let's make sure that this is off. Sorry, I didn't realize that was up. These are the areas that we really are focused in on. There's an enormous amount of customer data that gets generated, and the interactions that people have with the government are seen as a time tax, and it's really a motivation of the executive office of the president, not just from the Biden administration. Since in 2008, the president and the executive office of the president has been very focused on the CX stuff. So focusing in on how do we solve these challenges is going to be top of mind for leaders across the federal space. So just a little bit more kind of about us and what we do. We've been in business for about 50 years, and we're really interested in helping organizations deliver exceptional, digitally optimized, end-to-end experiences for their customers. So how do we do that? We start with customer data. According to a 2020 IDC study, there will be more data generated in the next 3 years than in the last 30. And as this expanse of data starts to get generated, there's a gold mine of information that creates new questions, new challenges on how do we effectively use that data to know more about our customers and the interactions that they're having with our organization. So obviously, Avtex can help you collect and analyze that data. Tools like Microsoft Dynamics 365 Customer Insights can be used and leveraged to help you know more about the customers that you're going to be interacting with. And as that data comes in, how do we start to fill the gaps, right, that are going to lead to better interactions that your customers are having with your organization? So in addition to data, right, we really are interested in helping to improve the relationships that customers have with your organization. Customer loyalty is kind of perhaps a misnomer in the federal space, but as things start to transform across industries, it used to be if you wanted to go to space, you had to become an astronaut and you have to go work for NASA. Well, now, you can go work for Blue Origin, right, or SpaceX, and you can achieve that goal. So the government does play in this space of competition in recruiting, especially. So making experiences very seamless and helpful for people who are interacting with your tools are very important. There are tools from Microsoft that are really designed to target customers and really make sure that you're getting the right messages to them. Not all of those tools are necessarily available in GCC or GCC High, but our experience with Microsoft Dynamics Marketing really positions us well to understand how to use the available tool sets to help really create targeted messages to your audiences. So one of the key things that is at the top of mind for customers when they're interacting with any organization is speed, convenience, and the knowledgeable help that they get from the customer experience representatives or the tools, portals, chat interactions, what have you, that makes them say, wow, that was really easy. That was very simple. And so we're really interested in thinking about the sort of total experience that customers have, right? Not just when they call into the call center or not just when they come to the website, but what is that 360 view of those experiences that customers are having? And we really think that Microsoft Dynamics 365 customer service, which Steve highlighted, is a core piece to that equation. And so we're really focused on building solutions on top of Dynamics 365 customer service to help really drive this home. And ultimately, right, we're interested in helping drive digital transformation, not for the sake of transformation, but because things are moving so fast across technology, across industry, across customer expectations. As we spent the first portion of this webinar discussing, there's new technologies coming out every day. And how can you fold that in to your experience or your technology stack to ensure that your customers are getting the most out of their interactions with you? We can help with that, right? We, in addition to working very closely with the Microsoft product teams, Avtex has developed a set of AI or IP that helps us meet the challenges that we are seeing out in the marketplace even faster for our customers. So we don't have extended development cycles and extended periods from new feature to the ability to use it in real life. And it's all about streamlining and future-proofing your organization against new technologies that are coming through. So I'm going to glide through a couple of the next few slides. Avtex supports both commercial and public sector, and we take all of the knowledge that we get from our work across all of these different industries and apply it back to our specific client challenges. So these are just a sampling of the industries that we cover. So what does this all mean? As we kind of discussed before, there are a number of challenges that are facing customers, and we want to turn all of those challenges into opportunity. We want to take the technology offerings from Microsoft and help you make your customer experience that much better. So I'm going to move through some of this stuff pretty quickly here because I want to really focus in on some of the demo stuff. But this is a clear visualization of the types of offerings that we provide to our customers. Strategic road mapping and support, I think, is a cornerstone of this activity. If you don't know where you're going, you'll get lost along the way. So really understanding what you want your customer journeys to look like, how they need to be designed, can then help us with things like customer journey orchestration, creating the right customer service platform, ensuring that we are tackling the right business processes. And we're very interested in using all of the tools that are at our disposal to make agents' lives better, to make employees' lives easier, to make the customer who's coming out from the outside, their experience simpler. Robotic process automation, something we're very excited about the announcements that are coming out, and the ability to use RPA to take those processes that are redundant and not value add for a human to press through and kind of automate that stuff, so your people can be very focused on supporting customer challenges. This slide should look very familiar. This is the same sort of area that Steve was showing before. We focus in on these areas and these tool sets from Microsoft as the sort of cornerstone of the business application side of customer experience. And this is kind of the last slide about Avtex and kind of what we do. We've been a Microsoft partner for many years, and I'm not going to read off all of our accolades, but we go to market with Microsoft because we think it's the best solution for our clients. And we're dedicated to the partnership, and we'll continue to grow it and excel. Wanted to highlight a couple of tools that we have. We have a public records tracker, which helps with FOIA request management. I'm sure everyone here is well aware of a FOIA request, so I won't get into the details here, but it's suffice to say, this is an example of us taking a known problem that we know that agencies have, creating some IP to accelerate the delivery of solutions to these types of problems. We also have a tool called Bidwin, which is designed for government contractors to manage their proposal cycles. This seems like it's something that's maybe not relevant for someone at an agency, but we actually deployed this at Oak Ridge National Labs because they are competing for contracts against the other national labs and private industry for funding for DoD projects and energy projects and things like that. So again, this is very geared towards the government procurement process, leveraging dynamics to help smooth that process through. I'm going to kind of glide through this. We do software development lifecycle, very focused on customers. And just for time, I'm going to kind of glide through some of these last slides here. Obviously, our approach is going to be tailored towards your customers, your employees, and implemented in a way that is very focused in on how you're going to be successful in interacting with your customers. So I want to jump into the work that we did for BARDA and kind of start out with what is BARDA. BARDA is the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Agency. They're part of the Assistant Secretary of Preparedness and Readiness within Health and Human Services. And their mission is to develop and procure needed medical countermeasures to threats to public health. So that could be therapeutics, vaccines, diagnostics, pharmaceuticals, so on and so forth, things that can help countermand any kind of biomedical threat. So at the core of their mission is really a public-private partnership that is designed to empower private industry to develop these therapeutics that I was describing on the last slide. And so the way they do that is they actually create, instead of, it's kind of like a grant program, but it's slightly different. They actually contract out to private labs to develop a countermeasure for the government, but the resulting milestones actually become IP that the contractor can then go use to go sell those countermeasures to the public. So that program is called DRIVE, and buttressing the dollars back and forth is a program called Easy BAA. And so we started working with Leidos to produce a new Dynamics externally facing portal to manage the Easy BAA process. And this went live in November of 2021 as part of their Industry Day activities. And I'm going to go to I'm going to go to this portal, which is easily accessible externally, and show you guys what this looks like in real life. So there are 30 more slides that have all of these screenshots, but I think we've drowned you guys in slides enough. So I'd like to actually go to this portal live so you guys can see it in action. So as you can see, this is on the open internet. I'm just kind of get rid of some of these so you guys can see. So this is a website that anyone can access, and perhaps we can put the link in the chat if you guys wanted to follow along as I click through here. But some of the design principles here were as follows. One, we wanted to leverage Dynamics 365 portals as much out of the box as we can. We wanted to create a supportable solution that was easy to update over time. So, what you see here from design elements and the way that pages render and things like that, this is how Dynamics 365 portals works in real life. So I'm actually going to do a sign-in process. There is a whole creating an account, very intricate, secure sign-in process that you can do to create an account. I don't want to go through all of that today, so I'm just going to sign in with an existing account that I have, and kind of highlight a couple of things from a security perspective. First of all, there's multi-factor authentication. Not only do I have to log in with a password, but I'm going to get a security code that's going to come to my email, and that will take a moment. So, Steve, I don't know if you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, sure. So just Aaron, a couple of questions here. So I just want to double check. So this is live in production today, right?
Yes, this is live on the open internet. Everyone on this call can go to it right now.
And so what we're looking at here is actually it's a Power Apps portal. So it's like public facing, and that's like a nice way that you can get like US citizen facing applications.
Yes, it is. And we were able to work with the IT team and the security team to get this ATO'd in time for the launch, which is always great. And because we've gone through this ATO process, it's something that through help with Microsoft and us even can talk about what do those ATO packages look like, what were the questions that were had, and how did that process go. So
Yeah, no, I think this is awesome and it's great because I think a lot of times when people see Power Platform or Dynamics, oftentimes I think they think of that's like an internal only kind of application. But what's really cool is you can combine that with something like we're seeing here, which is a Power Apps portal, and now you've got a front like public facing like kind of landing site into your Power Platform.
exactly. And in really extending that, and unfortunately, there's some kind of CUI related information. I can't actually pull up the back end of the solution.
Sure. Yep.
But it's about creating that 360 experience instead of having 16 different platforms. You've got a single platform, and because this is native, there are corresponding objects inside of Dynamics that we can use to do workflows and create queues and things like that just make this process more smooth for the people who are actually going through and looking at these abstracts and making decisions for this easy BAA program.
Cool.
So there's a privacy and security piece. This is, again, standard for government sites and something that's very easy for us to slot into this system. So now that I've logged in, it takes me to my sort of submission screen. And so any submissions that are ongoing, you can see them here. I can create a new submission. And again, just kind of for time, I'm going to kind of jump into a submission that we've already created, so you can kind of see visually what this application process looks like. And again, this is the actual application that BARDA uses to determine who they're going to give funding to. So it's not like fill this out and then there's another paper process that you have to go through. This is the actual application that you're submitting as part of your submission. So there's basic information here that is collected. One of the big pain points that they had in the past is that there was tons of duplication of organizations. So there would be GlaxoSmithKline, and then there would be GSK and Glaxo. And so we've actually created a way to look up an organization based on a DUNS number or a cage code, so that we're always looking at the same organization. That makes it easier for me, the submitter, as well as the submission reviewers to actually have that fidelity of account across the abstracts. You can see there's kind of embedded help here, and we're very excited about Power Virtual Agents being now generally available. We're going to absolutely take that to our customer and say, we should think about that as we are continuing to approve this application and other similar applications that the customer has for other funding programs. So one of the things that I like about this app is that you kind of have this visual representation of where you are in the process, and you can kind of jump around as needed, while at the same time kind of maintaining, from a submission perspective, if there are required data points that are required prior to submission, the system is keeping track of that. But if you want to just jump into this funding tab, you can, if you've got that information kind of available to you now. So we're not going to talk about every single thing here, but key information about how did you hear about BARDA to start to help the agency gain intelligence about the people who are applying and what their effective marketing activities are. Really easy to collect that information. Again, basic data entry items here, really driving towards eligibility. What type of organization are you eligible for this funding, so on and so forth. One thing I wanted to highlight here on this funding tab is some contextual visuals that come up as you change your answers, right? So if you have been awarded something before, you're going to get asked additional questions, and if you continue to say yes, you're going to get more conditional questions. Again, this is all native functionality with inside Power Portals, so we didn't have to create a new method or coding to make if you make this happen. These are just features that are native to Power Platform and Dynamics. So one other thing that I wanted to highlight here is that we are also hooked into SharePoint. So any documents that are processed as a part of this are attached to a document repository that is accessible from the abstract submission part of this. And again, just makes it a one-stop shop for the reviewers. So they don't have to go find these documents. They're all kind of there in one place for them to see. So I'm happy to go into any of these other sections. As you can see, it's a very data entry heavy process, and that's because that's the nature of this tool. But any questions that I can answer about this, or anything that I was talking about in our approach to helping our customers think about customer experience as they're facing some of their technology challenges, kind of happy to dive into.
And Aaron, we don't see any questions in the chat. We will also have kind of like an open Q&A shortly where we'll go off recording and people are welcome to ask questions then. But just I wanted to kind of just like summarize a couple of things. So first off, I think you made some really awesome observations. So even before the demo, I think one of the key takeaways I took was that oftentimes people think that the federal government and commercial industry is vastly different. But I think when you look at it from a customer experience lens, or how do you want citizens to engage with our services, is actually the same. And then I think the point that you made when you talk about even from a recruitment perspective, now the federal government is actually competing with companies like Blue Origin and SpaceX, and absolutely not just for the external kind of facing community, but for your internal customers or your internal employees. You want them to have an amazing experience too. And so I thought that was a really, really cool point that you touched on there.
Yeah, and it's something that we citizens are customers, right? They're spending most of their time out and about interacting with businesses, and that influences what they expect from their government. And the great thing about government is that government has always been at the forefront of technology adoption because it gives us an advantage on a global scale. It's often key to security, which is one of the primary motivations of the government. And so the government actually has a track record of being at the tip of the spear from a technology adoption perspective. I think where there has been a challenge is the amount of process that's required to ensure that all regulations are followed, that all of the funding rules are adhered to, and that creates layers and layers of checks, balances, and process that can sometimes be a burden on employees, can be a burden on people looking to get a service from the government. So some of these tools that are emerging from Microsoft and our ability to make those tools a reality are really should be leveraged to automate away some of the 17 clicks that go into a process, or ensure that there's compliance kind of in the background, so you're not forcing compliance on employees or expecting a citizen to know what they can apply to and what they can't. Just kind of automating some of those things. So I think there's a good opportunity for agencies across the board to take advantage of this technology innovation that Microsoft is providing.
Very cool. Yeah, and once again, this is available today, right? I mean, you've got a GCC solution that's portals, and I think what's so cool about the portals is it's really an extension of their Office 365 environment, because you're talking about you have integration with SharePoint. You're not writing like C# or Java code to do that, right? It's all low code. And then you can also integrate with the Power Platform for the admin side of the house to actually manage these too. And so, yeah, I think this is a great example here.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So,
yeah, it's yeah.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead, Aaron. Sorry.
Yeah. No. When we're talking to our customers, there's sometimes an apprehension of like, well, we've been doing it this way. We know that this is secure. We know what we're getting with this customized platform that we built 15 years ago. But what I think is so cool about the offerings that Microsoft has provided is that they've proven it out in some of the most secure environments across government. And I love having those security conversations now, because I can point to Army or DoD or even some of the national security community, and show that Microsoft is really at the forefront of providing secure, not only cloud environments, but just environments, period. So yeah, that's all I was going to add there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Aaron. And we really loved the solution. And I look forward to seeing, now that PVA is available, Power Virtual Agents, seeing kind of how you can take this to the next step with that too.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks,
All right,
Steve.
so we're going to do a really quick switch. I'm going to just do a couple of wrap-up slides, and then at the end we'll have an open Q&A. We'll stop the recording, and if you all have questions, then you're welcome to ask those. So let me go ahead and share my deck out real quick. And so once again, feedback is greatly important to us, and it is something we take very seriously. If you have any comments or ideas or advice for future topics that you would like to see in this kind of format, please go to that link down there, and we'd love to hear that. Once again, this is our contact information. So that is my contact information there if you want to reach out or if you have questions, and also Aaron's contact information is on this slide as well. The other thing we wanted to mention is next month we just committed to, we're going to be doing on Tuesday, March 22nd at 1 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be talking all about accessibility and 508 compliance. So when we're talking about these low-code solutions and Dynamics 365 applications, we're also going to talk to how do they meet the 508 compliance accessibility standards, and just our broader accessibility story at Microsoft as well. So we're really excited about that topic, and we hope that you all can join us for that.